Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Welcome back. Two Russian pranksters managed to get through to the British Foreign Secretary, Boris Johnson, and hold an 18-minute phone conversation in which they discussed the UK's relationship with Russia. The duo released audio of this call, in which one of them pretended to be Nikol Pashinyan, the recently appointed Prime Minister of Armenia.
I hope he will not poison me with Novichok.
Well, it's very important, I think, Prime Minister, that we don't have a new Cold War. You know, I don't want that. Nobody in the UK wants that. I personally feel that Russia has made a terrible mistake with what they did in Wiltshire, what they did to try to kill Sergei and Yulia Skripal with Novichok. Their behavior is generally very, very disruptive, and it's bad for Russia. And if I have a message to Putin, is that it is, you know, we don't want a Cold War, but we do want to see an improvement in the way Russia behaves.
Let's speak to our diplomatic editor, Dominic Waghorn, who's in Westminster for us. Oh dear, Dominic. Have we found out anything more about the pranksters and how this happened?
Well, the pranksters are well known. They're a pair called Alexei Stolyarov and Vladimir Kuznetsov, and they are known for trying to prank famous people, anyone from Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the Turkish leader, to Elton John, the pop star. And I think they probably would have thought with Boris Johnson, the gaffe-prone foreign secretary, who in public is pretty good at dropping clangers, that he may have been easy prey. And they've tried to catch him out in a number of ways, but Boris Johnson, despite being unable to keep his foot out of his mouth in public, in private and in this phone call with pranksters, seems to have not taken the bait. So they asked him about that joke about Novichok and Vladimir Putin. He doesn't rise to it. They ask him about oligarchs, and he uses colourful language saying you can't throw a stone in Kensington without hitting an oligarch, but he then restates government policy about oligarchs. And then they say, does Boris Johnson really believe that Vladimir Putin was personally behind the attack on the Skripals in Salisbury? And he says almost 100% certain. So he's sticking to government script on that. So he's not made any gaffes in this call. What is embarrassing, of course, is not necessarily for him, but for the government and for security and the kind of protocol that should be applied when a foreign secretary is talking to somebody claiming to be a foreign prime minister. That appears to have been breached, and we've been told by Downing Street in a lobby briefing that this should not have happened. An investigation is underway to determine the circumstances to make sure this doesn't happen again. Determined to find out what happened and make sure it doesn't happen again. So there's that determination. There's an admission that this should not have happened, but I think there will be some relief that Boris Johnson, in this case, did not drop any clangers. He did go on for 18 minutes talking to this pair, and it's not really clear whether they phoned him or whether he phoned them, because he says to them at some point in these 18 minutes, "Thank you for taking the call." So that's raises even more questions as to why he was calling this pair when they were clearly not who they seemed to be. The Foreign Office says that he realised fairly quickly it was a hoax. "We checked it out and knew immediately it was a prank call," they say.
Downing Street says there will be an investigation into how hoax callers from Russia managed to record an 18-minute phone conversation with the Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson. Posing as the newly elected Prime Minister of Armenia, the pranksters discussed UK-Russia relations and then posted the recording online.
As you know, I have a meeting with President Putin in Sochi next week.
I know.
Yes, I need to be prepared. I hope he will not poison me with Novichok.
Well, it's very important, I think, Prime Minister, that we don't have a new Cold War.
Well, our diplomatic correspondent James Robbins is with me. How embarrassing is this?
I think not so much embarrassing for the Foreign Secretary, who played this very, very straight and didn't actually give the hoaxers what they wanted, which was a gaffe, which I think they thought would be easy to extract from a man they regard as a soft target, but obviously embarrassing for the government because the government machine picked up all the wrong signals, thought this was a genuine approach from Armenia's newly elected Prime Minister, and arranged the call. Boris Johnson played it very straight throughout. His foot was never anywhere close to his mouth. And actually, the hoaxers have played him the compliment of saying that he was very diplomatic and he spoke to them as a foreign minister.
All right, James, thank you. James Robbins.
Foreign Office sources have blamed the Kremlin for a prank call to the Foreign Secretary, Boris Johnson. 2 Russian comedians managed to get through to Mr. Johnson by pretending to be the Prime Minister of Armenia. During the 18-minute call, they claimed that Vladimir Putin had boasted he had influence over the Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn.
He says that he has influence over the leader of Labour Party, Mr. Corbyn.
Really? Well, did he tell you that?
Yeah, he told me. Yes, he told me that.
Really? What he told you that he was influencing Jeremy Corbyn?
Yes, absolutely.